excited to spend just a few minutes with you sharing some of the exciting strategies, ideas, and tools that we use, of course, within our organization. This is an amazing time to be able to succeed at the highest level in the game of real estate. So I wanted to give you 5 things that are critical to every single agent's success. In fact, I'm convinced that every manager, every broker, every leader has to have these things in place, or it is next to impossible for them to succeed. So let me list them up here very quickly for you. Here's the first one. Number 1 is that we know that anyone who succeeds seems to have a great purpose, a dream. Let's just put up here a why. And sometimes that gets a little monotonous hearing because, everyone talks about the why, the purpose, what's your dream? Go for it. But the reality is it has to be the thing that weaves within your day. It's the emotion, it's the heart of what you do every single day. The second thing, though, that goes in line to not be confused with, and that is the goals that you set. Now look, being human, we can only focus on a few things at a time. And frankly, we might only be able to focus on one thing at a time. But we know that 3 to 5 goals, like just solid goals. Maybe it's goals about your business, your finances, your health, your family, whatever it may be. But we've got to have these goals in place. If we don't have them, it's next to impossible to succeed. So let me give you an example in this segue between the purpose and the goal. Look, someone comes to me and says, George, I want to earn $250,000 this year. Well, my first question back to them is I want this answer. Why? What's important about earning $250,000? That's where you start to realize and gain the knowledge of the passion, the energy, the emotion, the spirit, what juices you to do the things that normally people would not do. So let's just imagine that our day, our month, our year is set up with a deep, abiding purpose and desire. Let's assume that we've set 3, 4, 5 goals that are in place. Well, now we've got to move to number 3, which is we have to make sure we're clear on the plan that we're going to follow. Maybe it's the number of contacts. Maybe it's the sources of business. Maybe it's what you're going to do with your sphere of influence. The plan has to be in place. How many hours will you prospect? Where will you prospect? When will you prospect? How about this? What books will you read? What, CDs or, MP3s or, Audible or iTunes, whatever it is you pull and grab, or, a podcast. What are you going to listen to protect your mind? What skill sets will be within your plan? What disciplines will you put in place within your plan? That plan has to be in place. It would be like building a house but having no blueprint. Interesting, right? You would never do that. We have to have a plan. Now, number 4, let's throw up a different color here. Number 4 is we have to have a schedule. Now look, I deeply believe that there are only 3 things that you have to focus on within your schedule. I know that if you have a listing presentation today at 2 o'clock, you're not going to just blow it off. If you have a buyer today at 10 a.m., you're not going to just blow it off and not show up. But I do know the 3 things that we often, because we're human, we will blow off. And we won't treat it as seriously and we won't be as committed as we need to be in these 3 areas. Here's the first one very quickly. Number 1 is we know that we need to make sure we're exercising on a daily basis. You have got to use this body and do something great. Get the endorphins running. Get oxygen running into it. Lift weights, run, whatever it is for you. But let's make sure on a daily basis we're exercising. The second thing that we know we have to be clear within our schedule is this. We have to make sure that we're practicing. Right? Every great professional, or we need to make sure we're getting trained. Every great professional is going to get training. Every great professional is going to make sure they're practicing. It's inexcusable not to. If you want to win this game, you're going to have to do that. Early on in my career, over 20 years ago, I was practicing, role-playing, writing out scripts, doing all sorts of things. And people come to me all the time and go, oh, I don't like scripts. I like to do my own thing. Imagine if that was your mindset if you were a player, let's just say on the Los Angeles Lakers. Let's say if you wanted to just do your own thing when you were out on the court, how well that would work for you with the coach. Let's say you were on a football team, and in fact, the world champions, right, who won the Super Bowl, Bill Belichick, and you are the quarterback, Tom Brady, and you say, hey, you know what, Bill, I'm just going to do my own thing. I don't really like scripts, dialogues, a plan, a blueprint. I'm going to do my own thing. How well would that work? You know you wouldn't even have a job if you did that. So look, we got to practice, we got to train, we got to exercise. And then the third component that we have to be highly clear on in our schedule is that we have to prospect, right? Here's a little rule. 15 hours of prospecting every single week will generate a minimum of $250,000 in income every year. You want to win? Get clear on these three things within your schedule. And then last but certainly not least, and almost, I have to tell you, probably the most important thing, and that is that we have to be accountable. If you are not accountable, it is next to impossible to win this game. You need to look at accountability as the insurance to living your dream or fulfilling the why, the desires, the things that juice you, drive you, and give you purpose to your life. It is next to impossible to not be accountable and still achieve these things. You won't do it because you're human. People always ask me, they say, well, wait, I know what I'm supposed to do. I just need to do it. I firmly believe that's going to be on the gravestone of every great agent. It'll say, I know what I'm supposed to do. I just didn't do it. And you know what? That's just life. People always ask me all the time, why do I not do what I'm supposed to do? And I lean forward and say, because you're human. That's why. Because you're a human being. And we are wired internally to avoid pain. And what do these three things have in common? Exercise, practicing, prospecting. One thing, pain. So you have to dance with the pain. You need to embrace the fact that you need to do one thing. And that is do what all great athletes, professionals, and people who succeed at the highest level do. They stop living their life based on how they feel. Now you may say, whoa, I watched the law of attraction. It's all about do what you're supposed to do based on how you feel. Come on, stop the nonsense. The nonsense is that those who act and live their life based on how they feel have no discipline. If you feel like eating something, you eat it. If you feel like not exercising, you don't. If you feel like not prospecting, you don't. So here's the mantra of the day, of the week, and hopefully maybe even of your lifetime. Do this. And this is what I've said for well over 2 decades. I know what I'm supposed to do, right? I know what I'm supposed to do, and I'm going to do it. And here's the mantra. I got my backwards there just a little bit. We're not even going to start this thing over because we're throwing this thing right off the cuff. Here we go. I do what I'm supposed to do despite how I feel. I do what I'm supposed to do despite how I feel. How many times have you not felt like going to work? How many times have you felt like not prospecting? See, if you have a real job and you didn't feel like going to work, guess what? You'd still go. But for some reason, we'll get into this renegotiation that we start doing things that make no sense. We negotiate away our entire dreams based on the fact that we don't feel like prospecting, or don't feel like practicing, or don't feel like exercising. So in closing, gang, here's the deal. You have got to operate from a place where you are working from a place of certainty in your schedule, your plan, your goals, and driving the emotion with what moves you. Allow people to hold you accountable. Maybe it's simple things like the hierarchy of pain. Maybe it's that you prospect 15 hours a week, and if you don't, you pay someone, $100 a day if you don't do what you're supposed to do. People say, whoa, hold on, you mean like that aggressive? Yeah, maybe it's you take someone to lunch. Maybe it's as simple as texting your manager. But in the end, I can tell you this, if you're accountable, you're going to win the game. There is nothing in this business that you cannot learn, and there is nothing in this business you cannot do. Remember, you are a champion and you are capable of so much. And I am so grateful to be part of your life. And if you're listening to this, I truly wish you to have the most extraordinary career, the ability to gather your greatest dreams, your greatest purposes, the things you desire most out of your life because you've built the right foundation. Have a great week, and we'll talk next week.